Hey guys, so now that we have the game logic implemented, we need to turn it into a proper game, because so far we've been using always the same numbers for the player and the computer, and in this video we are going to see how to add the player input and also how to generate random numbers for the computer. So basically what we are going to change is the step number 2, where we are giving each player a number. And for that, we have the utilities script that we imported at the beginning of this series of videos. And I'm just going to show you what each script or each file has. So for example, the game input basically has functionality that allow us to ask the player for a number, and you can see wait for the player input and validate the input, and also can ask the player for a text that we are not using on this game. Oh no, yeah, we are going to use on this game because we are going to ask for the player name. And the game print, basically what it does, it just creates like prettier messages for the console. So you can see we have like box messages and input messages and messages. This is like a generic message, I think. And this is the code to generate those messages. And the game random, basically what it does is we can ask for a random number between a min and a max value. And so these are the utilities that we are going to use to ask for the player input and to generate the random numbers. And just tell you why I'm using the game utilities. As you can see, I have some code in each one of these utilities, and it will be a lot to implement all this in this series of videos. I think it's a little bit out of the scope of this video, so that's why we are using these utilities instead of implementing all this by hand. And so on the main, we go back to the main file, and here on step number 2, instead of assigning the number 1 to the player number, we are going to ask the player for a number. And to ask the player for a number, we are going to use the game input, which is the name of the script, dot, and we use number, and in between parentheses, what this game input number is waiting or is expecting is for us to give the valid numbers that we want the player to be able to choose. And let me just check how I implemented the game input, because I don't remember. Oh, it's accepting, okay, yeah, it's accepting a list of numbers. So basically what we can do here is the game input, and in this case, we can just give a list of numbers, in this case, which is number 1 and number 2, basically are the valid numbers that we are accepting as valid input from the player. So now, if we run the code, you will see that it will print these two messages. Okay, so you can see user results, computer is evens, and now it's not running anything else. And that's basically because what it's doing is that it's waiting here for the player input. So it's waiting for the player to input a number. So for example, if I input the number 1 and press enter, you can see that then it continues. So user chooses number 1, computer chooses number 2, player wins the round, and what is happening is now it's back at the beginning. So it's here waiting again. So for example, if I put a wrong number, let's say not a wrong number, like a number that's not valid, because we said that the only valid numbers would be number 1 and number 2. So for example, if I put number 3, it's going to ask, okay, enter a valid number. And in this case, I'm going to enter number 2. So the player wins the round, now the computer wins the round, and now I'm going to put number 1, and the player is the winner. So the question here is that, okay, we can input the numbers right now, so we can see that, okay, the program is already accepting the number input, but the problem is that the player doesn't know that it needs to input a number. So before asking the player for the number input, we need to add a new message to tell him, okay, you need to choose a number. And for that, we are going to use the game print dot input. And the game print dot input, basically it prints a message that is formatted for inputs. That's the idea. So you can hear the game input print, You can see input, and the message is formatted like this. So you can see that it has like this little arrow at the beginning. And basically what this accepts is a text. And so here we are going to see game input, and we are going to ask the player, okay, select a number between 1 and 2. Not select, but choose a number between 1 and 2. And now if you run the game, it always takes a while to run the game, but okay, now you see that we have a message that is quite different from the other one. So okay, choose a number between 1 and 2, and we check number 1, and then we have it again. So this is it for the player input. I'm gonna add like this at the end. And now for the computer, we need to generate a random number. And to generate a random number, we are going to use the other utility that we have, which is game random number. And here we pass basically the values that we want to generate. The values, I mean the mean value and the max value for that we want to use for a range to generate numbers. So if you are using the value between value 1 and value 2, it's going to basically choose one or the other. And yeah, so this is it. We just run this, and we'll see that the computer is going to choose random numbers. Just wait. Okay, so wait, not here. I choose number 1, computer chooses number 1, computer wins the round, so I choose number 2, computer chooses number 2, so wins the round. So you can see that, okay, here the computer chose number 1, and here the computer chose number 2, so it's randomly choosing numbers. And yeah, so this is it about getting input. So we have like, here we are using the 3 game utilities that we have, so game print, input, the game input asking for numbers, and the game random generating random numbers. And so yeah, this is it. On the next video, we are going to see, let me see. I don't know, I don't remember what we are going to see on the next video. Oh yes, I know, sorry. Next video we are going to also replace this to ask for the player to play with odds or evens, and we're going to replace some other stuff to continue making it a proper game. So yeah, this is it. So, okay. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.